Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Okay. So I was gonna have another presentation on regulatory inspection after Michael's presentation. So as you guys all can hear us, he's having some. I think he's multiple booked, so that's why this confusion. Um, I will continue with the regulatory inspection presentation, and then he will take my next slot. So before further ado, because we have already lost 10-12 minutes, I will jump right into the discussion on regulatory inspections. This is just a content heading slide to identify what we're going to discuss in this presentation. Again, we have seen this slide in previous presentations, so I won't go into this. So let's start with stages in vaccine development, as you all know, and we have seen this in that comparison slide between COVID, fast tracked and the regular stream process timelines. There are different stages in vaccine, starting from before preclinical. There is an early stage where, oh shoot, sorry about that, guys. There's a development a research stage. After from the research stage, when the concept is identified and developed, then it goes into the preclinical stage where you test on non-clinical safety. It's critical. It's basically safety, and there are different steps for basically to go into phase 1. You only need repeat tox study to demonstrate safety, and then you can go into phase 1. Some countries like Korea, because I just recently had this experience with Korean agency, MFDS, that they require genotox studies. So, toxicology studies to demonstrate that, in different systems within the body, there's no toxicity developed due to and they require that as part of going into phase 1. And so that's the early stage offering, and then during the late stage, we had some discussion on what is required in process validation analytics. So let's start with early stage. You need to demonstrate cell line development, upstream, downstream process development, analytical development, and good manufacturing process, GMP compliance for clinical to start the clinical trials. During the late stage, during phase 3 to commercial, you need to the manufacturer needs to demonstrate process validation, complete process validation. Usually 3 lots. Process validation is done to demonstrate reproducibility of the process, and meaning. And you all are regulators, I believe. So you know that it's basically to demonstrate that no matter how many times you manufacture a product using that process, it will give you the same result, same product. And then analytical method validation, process scale-up, facility design, equipment supply, GMP training, etc. And this is, we have talked about another schematic. I thought it would give us a good depiction. What are the steps in vaccine manufacturing? And these are the upstream process and the downstream process. Basically, in upstream, you have the strain, you grow the strain, you amplify, in bioreactors, let's say, and then purification of the microorganism. Go through inactivation, formulation, and quality control and lot release system. The different types of vaccine manufacturing. And I won't go through this, but you can see, there are different processes from culture to inactivation or purification or going into vaccine. And there are some examples as well. Before I jump into next sets of slides, let me see, there's a question. Okay, this is again for the previous one, so we will tackle it later. Vaccine manufacturing facility. So facility building schedule. I thought this was very good schematic to demonstrate how the facility comes up and running. You have to define a scope and then design the facility, procurement, constructions. Once the construction is done, then you do the IQ/OQ, and this is where you start manufacturing your phase 3 clinical trial after IQ/OQ, and then start validation of the equipments, and then you get the facility approval. So validation of the once IQ/OQ is done, your equipments are qualified, then you manufacture the product, and then that data needs to be submitted for approval of the facility. And you can see how long it takes. It's not just the construction, but it's even after the construction, it takes like another 1 to 2 years, 1.5 to 2 years. A typical vaccine manufacturing facility design, where you have to have a warehouse and filling and office area, and the GMP production area, and the laboratories for. And this laboratory area is basically for in-process controls, which are not released, but you have to. There are certain tests that you have to perform before moving to next step, and the waste management system. So what are the engineering considerations for fit to strategy? There has to be defined goals. So what type of molecules that's going to be manufactured, and whether it's large scale, potent, or is it a pilot scale, a small scale, whether it's a multi-product facility or multi-phases where you do campaigns, or volume, and depends on the volumes. And do you want to have the capacity to ramp up if needed in the future? What is the fit to process strategy? You have to have appropriate technology. What are the existing processes? Whether you want to use that, or whether whether you're going to use the facility for filling or for new template, expected yield and level of flexibility required. Whether you want to have hybrid, or whether you have single use system. All that needs to be taken into consideration at the engineering stage. And then project consideration for the design. These is all need to be built up in the design stage for the facility. Early product stages, quality HSC engineering frame, what regulations are applicable, and then master planning is required. A master plan has to be built up, which means you need to have everything designed and defined before you go into building the facility, constructing the facility. For the design consideration, you need to have, for the facility, you need to ensure that the cross-contamination assessment needs to be done in advance, so that there's no cross-contamination between, especially if you're using multi-product or multi-phase. And even if you're not, you still have to have an HVAC system and all that. So what are the key drivers for this? It's the agility, the flexibility, the operational and cost effectiveness, and what regulations are applicable for this project. And then you go into process architecture, where a connection of the process suite, how the flow is going to, because it depends on you have to establish a personnel flow, and then the product flow and the waste flow. And for vaccines, it all has to be single directional. There is no two directions. Like if the product is going to this direction, it cannot come back. It's the same as personnel and the same as waste. And then it also needs to be considered the size of the facility and the space, and what future changes you wanna have. Again, the location for the building, and the retrofit and the clean room design, and whether you want a turnkey. What challenges industry face? I will not go into detail for this, but basically cost of goods is one of the challenges. Process scale up is another. If you're running a multi-product facility, then campaigning is another. How to switch from one to another, and even to license a facility for campaigning between two products is you need to demonstrate containment control, that there won't be any contamination. So you need to demonstrate how the HEPA filters studies will be done and how they will be monitored throughout. Okay, we'll quickly jump into regulatory inspections because we are already almost halfway in terms of time, and I want to cover these slides. Again, why do we want to inspect? Of course, we don't want to have reach into this situation where we have to jump to the roof to avoid the inspectors, right? Inspection can be done and can be either entire inspection of the operation facility, or it can be specific to ensure whether to ensure compliance or to follow on a corrective action. Depends on what the agency wants to inspect, right? So there are certain key systems and critical elements that FDA, and this I got from FDA guidance, and I've provided the guidance reference as well. And you can please feel free to go and check. It'll be good for developing further understanding. But the key systems that the inspection basically focuses on is the quality system, the facilities and equipment, the material production, packaging, labeling system, and laboratory control. The critical elements that they look at is SOPs during inspection, training logs, and records. So for vaccines, there are two levels of inspection. Then the first one is an in-depth audit of three critical elements in at least four of the key system, one of which has to be quality system. Level 1 inspection of biological drug product manufacturers should also include an audit of the production system. Okay. And level 2 inspection is a streamlined evaluation of an establishment compliance with CGMP. Okay. Okay, types of GMP inspection. So there are few different types of GMP inspection, and I will quickly go through these inspections and highlight their requirements. So for the routine inspection is basically complete GMP inspection. It's of a new and when do they do GMP? Complete GMP inspections. Either it has to be a new manufacturer or a new manufacturing facility or a license renewal, or if there is a history of GMP non-compliant, or the facility has not been inspected in last 3 to 5 years. They also do routine inspections. A complete GMP inspection can also be done when there's a new product or product line, or there's modification in the method, or the premises or personnel or equipments have changed. Concise inspection, where they are specifically where the regulatory authorities are specifically looking into GMP specific requirements. They identify if there are significant changes or change in approach towards GMP, or the manufacturer has very limited GMP focus, and agencies are of concern of that, or the manufacturer is non-compliant in the past several times, which triggers the concise inspection. follow-up inspection, if it's a re-inspection or regulatory agency have inspected the facility site and they have identified certain concerns or observations, and they want to go back and re-inspect to make sure that those concerns have been met, let's say, or they want to reassess the facility. Or follow up after 6 months due to level or nature of defects or the work undertaken. Sometimes it's also triggers due to missing GMP requirements were observed, missing following GMP requirements. And then there's a special inspection category where agency wants to do spot check. It can be focused on one product or several group of related products. So, for example, if it's a bacterial product, tetanus, diphtheria, pertussis. So they lump all different products, or either it's a primary series or a booster series, and they would lump everything into this product specific inspection. Sometimes it is specific to manufacturing operation, like filling, labeling, formulation, due to complaints or recalls, or adverse reaction or event was reported, or sometimes it could be due to marketing approval request. So in these in these conditions, the regulatory agency do special inspections. Another type of inspection is quality system review inspection, where the agency wants to evaluate the quality assurance system, the manuals that describe the QA system, the policies, and the management structure also, to ensure that the quality systems are adequately developed and adhere to the requirement and the standards. We talked about it. For the frequency of inspection depends on the type of inspection, of course. Whether it's new facility, then it has to be before license, or whether it's multi-visits over a period of time, 5 years. That all depends on what type of inspection is needed. Duration, again, it depends on the type of inspection. And then, of course, the workload specifically for the example if we take for FDA, what is their workload and how many inspectors they can assign to a site, because they basically inspecting sites all over the world, right? Whether it's big pharma or small pharma, whether it's raw material manufacturer, whether it's what it's called, combination product manufacturer, combination and device manufacturer, or whether it's just a device manufacturer. So it all depends. And inspection can be announced or unannounced, and I've just identified some categories for announced or unannounced. Okay, moving on to inspection management. Basically what is required and what needs to be, how a company needs to be prepared for inspection, and what regulators are trying to identify through this preparation. So, what is the selection criteria for inspecting a facility, whether it's a high-risk product or a prescription drug or sterile, or bioresearch inspections, sometimes for clinical or preclinical. I will not go through inspection do's and don'ts in the interest of time, so that we can finish in time. But you have the slides, and you can go through this. And of course, what companies don't have to share with the inspectors. So for a typical PAI prior approval inspection, let's say for a new product, this is a typical terminology that FDA uses. The inspection team would include a lead investigator, a microbiologist to see all the for vaccines specifically, to see all the data, and the chemist for the chemical test, and the microbiologist will be the potency test, and the computer systems, and they will review from headquarters drug or devices, and the focus of the inspection is the quality system, as we said. That is number one focus, and the employee training records, formulation development, and deviation and failure investigations. So these are the key focuses from FDA inspectors for when they come for inspection. And this is basically this inspection focus is not just for PAI; it could be for all the others as well. In recent years, what has been seen is that FDA's focus is highly on quality assurance, and of course, because in the inspections they cannot cover everything, so they are focused. Their focus is highly on quality system programs. And we talked about it. What is the reason for inspection management? And is basically compliance with the where GMP compliant, quality systems are compliant. And of course, the inspection can be very daunting for the manufacturer. And it is very key how the manufacturer interacts with the regulators. Managing inspection on the day of inspection is very critical. Preparing for the inspection and preparing the site and the team for the inspection is also very critical. Okay, so we'll go into summary of inspection observations. Most of the time, regulatory authorities, after they completed the inspection of a particular site for vaccine manufacturing, we are specifying, and biological, they would publish their findings, summary of their findings. It's useful to see what inspectors are looking for and identifying in their observations, especially relevant for new areas of inspection, because in new areas, new manufacturers can identify what are the key elements that of focus. It can be also used to determine trends across the industry. What are the common themes? What are these themes being seen, and can be used to focus inspection from high-risk areas. I apologize for this blurry table, but I think it's sorry about this. For this blurry, but it does identify what are the different from MHRA deficiencies for 2018 that they have published a summary for according to EU guidelines and GMP chapter. So chapter 1, which is blue area, which is the biggest in the pie chart, is basically for pharmaceutical quality systems. And that's why the focus has shifted onto the quality systems more and more, because it's been identified to be more less to have more issues in having a compliant quality system. Okay. And then personnel is the next one, which is chapter 2, which is this one, which is 5%, and then premise and equipment is this yellow one. Then it goes into where is my cursor? This yellow one is premise and equipment, and then documentation is another one, which is almost premise and equipment and documentation is basically equal in terms of observations receiving from MHRA. They're for different companies. Then goes the production, which is the green area, which is 8%, and then the quality control, which is the 5%, which is the blue area. So quality control is good. So you can see, so basically this gives a good picture of what areas are have have received most observation, and of course, again, quality system or lack of appropriate compliant quality system has the highest number of observations. So from the Irish regulatory agencies, they shared their over summary of GMP inspections, and you can see that in 2021 there were 99 major deficiencies and 716 other deficiencies. And major deficiencies are basically quality system deficiencies in the quality systems, non-compliant GMP compliant issues. And you can see that throughout from 2018 to 2021 at least, there hasn't been much difference between the quality major deficiency observations and other deficiency observation, although critical deficiency has increased. What are some of the top 10 FDA warning letters citations? Number one, you can see is due to validated production and process control. Again, the quality systems, right? And then the investigation of discrepancies and OOS's results, which is also very critical. For FDA, this one is very critical, and it is also required in the dossier to identify and list and list summary of all the discrepancies observed or the OOS results, and discuss the root cause analysis and outcome. Then you go into the stability testing, the quality unit, the failure to test finished products, and things like that. Equipment cleaning and maintenance is on it's a CFR citation to 2011. So it's something that please go and into reading those if you want to develop further understanding. Okay, inspection observations. So, FDA issues 483 inspection observation, which is the inspection observation category, and within that, the FDA 481 is for establishment of inspection report. Which is due to significant observations, correction during inspection, discussion. So it's basically a concise report where they cover all this. There is inspection and call it inspection report, right? And that's what they provide to the manufacturer. They also give warning letters, violation, continuation, sometimes also due to possibility of injury or death or willful act, which causing public health concern, public health severe issue. They also issue product recall, seizure, consent degree in failing when the company failed to comply or meet schedule proposed, or there's a payment issue, or there's an audit, or independent consultants basically do the auditing and formalize the report. And of course, the most critical is the civil prosecution, depending on what public health incident happened, right? And was it deliberate or overlooked? I've provided the WHO inspection report link, so please feel free to go into the link. I'm not going to go into it more details. So this is a summary of an example of inspection observations from Health Canada. The person responsible for making, so basically, again, you can see it's quality control department or and the other is personnel. And the observation specific is basically related to responsible making decisions about quality control requirements did not have adequate knowledge of on-site operations to fulfill the responsibility. So agencies during inspection they go into detailed records, and they do sometimes they would ask to interview the person as well if they find that the person is not uh, apt to for that position. They look at education, qualification, experience, and also on-job training. What is the job description, and look at the resume against the job description of the person who's performing that role. Ongoing training is very critical. GMP training, annual GMP training record has to be updated before any inspection. So these slides basically highlight some of the critical inspection observations from Irish agencies. And basically you can see that again the quality system. So these are some of the examples of the quality system observations. Environmental program deficiency in environmental monitoring, for example, or indicated lack of understanding of basic principles like and good aseptic practices. If someone is working in that area, they need to have that basic understanding or approach taken to train and qualify production staff. So they look at from various different aspects. Management of GMP records is another critical point that can be of an observation during inspection. From the observations from critical inspection observations highlighted in production area is controls of for aseptic operations, basically aseptic processing, the efficiency related to the autoclaving of filling equipment, environmental monitoring and personal monitoring program, and media fills management. In the quality control lab activities, observations that were like top critical observations is basically batches released to the market without having the required microbiological testing. But this is a big thing. You have to do the the bioburden and the especially for the sterile manufacturing, a sterile product, right? And vaccines are sterile product. Management of investigation is another big thing. I see that the observation says data integrity in QC laboratory. So this is huge, and the companies can get shut down for this. And handling of deviation is another one. Quality risk management observations. Some of the observations were procedures for implementation of the QRM not in place. Classification of risk profile was not justifiably assigned for the supplier material. Supplier assigned same audit frequencies despite the suppliers presenting different levels of intrinsic risk, of course. That's logical. And so some of these things are basically companies are doing in routine without sometimes applying logic behind it, right? If you have different levels of risk, then you have to have different audit frequency, for example. And the how the risk assessment tool is built. Supplier management allowed for 3 critical observations prior to audit results. So you get the idea, right? Aseptic processing. So FDA is, like I said, they are big on quality, quality systems management. So your question is very loaded. Okay, can we use a multi-product facility to manufacture so many? Wow. Um, where I come from, all these facilities have their own buildings. Okay, but you can. So are they all going to use the same equipment, same system? Is the equipment single use? So there are many questions to this question, basically. Sorry, I jumped into this question right off because I read it and I was like, wow. I can say, what I can say is two things. One, is the facility, are the equipments used are single use? That's one thing. You have to do HEPA filter monitoring. Uh, you have to have a good production flow, a process flow, a material flow. Are you gonna use it the same process flows for all? The fourth thing is you need to go and in a in an overarching response, I can say yes, because now more and more companies are looking into doing that. They're building wind facility, but when you deep dive, there's more layers to it. I would recommend you, before even start developing the facility, go and discuss your design and strategy first with your national regulatory authorities, and identify how you're going to do containment control, which is critical in this case, especially BCG. I don't know what procedure you're going to use. BCG is a very tough procedure to manufacture. So that I can say. This is okay. Next one. How do you handle negative outcomes of inspection in regards to publicly making the outcome available? So that's something that needs to be discussed with the authorities first, and you need to have a resolution for the negative outcome, and a plan. A plan could be closing down the site, maybe, I don't know, but you need to have a future plan before I think you should publicly make it available. So insight, sorry, there's one question 2 of the same question. Kindly provide insight into how your quality metrics with regards to inspection outcomes are handled and published. Again, it's the same thing. You need to, with regards to inspection outcomes, I think you handle everything the same way. You identify what are the key elements and key inspection observations. How flexible are vaccine manufacturing production line to product design changes, considering the high cost of investments injected in manufacturing? I'm not sure what you mean. Can we use a multi-product facility? I think we talked about that one. In my recent inspections, especially in India, most companies had clauses in their SOP for self-inspection. That is self-inspection. So if you look at my slide where it shows that what you don't share with the inspection. Self-audit reports are not to, internal audit reports are okay not to be shared with the inspectors. But as long as the SOPs are detailed enough for review and comments. What key areas should be LMIC focus on in preparation for local production of vaccine? Global standards. Are there any initiatives? There are a lot of initiatives from CEPI for LMIC bridging the knowledge gap. And you can reach out to any of us and we will connect you to the right function. For the critical observation itemized by HPRA in your presentation, what do you advise the immediate action to be taken by the inspection team? It depends on what kind of critical observation. So basically the inspection team, what they do is discuss the critical observation and what is required to close off that observation, and what steps the company will take to address those critical observations. That should be the key, and what would be and the regulator and the manufacturer needs to agree to the to what would be the end objective and the end results. What key areas should be LMIC focus on in preparation for local production of vaccine manufacturing to meet the global standards? You can see in the theme from the observations that there are quality systems, quality assurance, production management, equipment and production facility validation. There are a lot of key area themes. Are there any initiatives, trainings from CEPI other than this one to help LMIC bridge the knowledge gap that exists in vaccine manufacturing? Yes, and there are a lot of initiatives in different regions, including Africa. So if you connect with Matt, myself, or through Washington, we can definitely bridge it and bring you on board. Briefly, how do biopharmaceutical companies effectively navigate regulatory inspection, and what are some key compliance strategies they employ to ensure adherence to global standards? So go through my slides again, and you would see how, especially the slides on preparation for inspection and inspection management. And if you have more questions, we can discuss it further.
Yes. Thank you, Hassan.
Thank you.
What a marathon.
I do speak fast, so hopefully everybody was able to follow through. And I see Michael has joined. So thank you all. Thank you, Washington and Julia, for giving me this opportunity to connect with. Hopefully, we'll have more discussion-based session as well in future. And thank you all. It was nice presenting to the team. Bye.
Thank you very much, Hassan, for the detailed presentation. I can only see that you took a long time to compile these presentations. Thank you for your dedication.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. So, Julia, can you promote Michael? I see he's in the participants.
Yeah, I've done that. Thank you.
All right. Michael.